Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Hey everyone. Today, I want to tell you a story about how an ordinary man's life flipped upside down in an instant. A friend I trusted, a wife I loved, and a blissful couple's golf trip. Everything seemed perfect that night, but I plummeted into an inescapable abyss of desire. From the moment this clandestine temptation began, I constantly asked myself, was this a cruel twist of fate or a meticulously planned descent into ruin? Now, I want to share with you all the hidden truths and the forbidden story that consumed my very soul. By the time this narrative concludes, you'll likely be asking the same question as me. How far can human desire truly go before it consumes everything? That night, I woke to a raw, animalistic pleasure, only to find myself plunging into a cold, shocking reality. The woman gasping in my arms, her body still trembling with the last echoes of passion, wasn't Amelia, my wife. As the fog of pleasure lifted, her face came into sharp focus, illuminated by the faint moonlight filtering through the blinds. It was Isabella, my closest friend Lucas's wife. My perfect life, the one I had meticulously built and cherished, shattered in that instant. How did this insidious destruction begin? This hellish tale started 2 years ago, with the unexpected reunion of a friend I hadn't seen in 15 years. 2 years prior, my right side had been unusually aching. I'd pulled several all-nighters for an important contract, and the heavy, persistent pain was enough to make me break out in a cold sweat. Finally, I sought out a clinic near my office in Manhattan, New York. As I pushed open the door to the small but luxurious clinic, the doctor, in a white coat, looked up from a chart, and his eyes widened. "Benjamin, is that you?" The moment I heard his voice, a forgotten piece of my memory clicked into place. Suntanned face, mischievous eyes. It was Lucas, my friend from 15 years ago, with whom I'd sweated and toiled in our university sports club. Damn it, man. How long has it been? Despite 15 years having passed, we slapped each other on the back like we'd just seen each other yesterday. He pressed on my stomach and chuckled. "Man, you've gotten old and let yourself go, haven't you? All that belly fat. No medicine can fix that. We'll have to disinfect it with alcohol. Forget the doctor's fee, just buy me a drink tonight." That night, Lucas and I drank at a sports bar until dawn, losing all track of time. We talked about our sweaty university days, the reckless abandon of our youth when we feared nothing, and then our wives and children. He was now the director of a small clinic, and I ran a small company. We patted each other on the back, genuinely congratulating each other for having endured the grueling years and found a good measure of success. That weekend, as if by unspoken agreement, we met again, bringing our wives along. For the first time, the four of us sat together in a formal private dining room at a high-end restaurant in Manhattan. I remember the day I first introduced my wife, Amelia, to Lucas's wife, Isabella. My wife, Amelia, 3 years my junior, possessed a calm and elegant beauty. She had long, straight hair, a pure face, and a warm smile that always brought me comfort. Lately, though, a quiet complacency had settled into our marriage, a comfort that, while safe, often felt passionless. Isabella, the same age as Lucas, exuded a different kind of charm. With her striking, Western features and a firm, voluptuous figure. Her eyes sparkled like a deep, dark ocean whenever she smiled. There was an untamed energy about her, a hint of something vibrant and unpredictable that Amelia, with her gentle nature, lacked. Isabella quickly began to treat Amelia like an older sister. As if on cue, both women loved novels by the same author and wore the same shade of lipstick. Seeing Amelia look up to Isabella, calling her Isabella, made my heart swell with pride, as if Amelia's world was expanding. I felt as though I had found the last missing piece of my life's puzzle. A perfect friend, a perfect wife, and a perfect friend's wife. I thought nothing could be better. For several months afterward, we met almost every weekend. Sometimes we went to newly opened art museums, and other times we sought out charming cafes in the suburbs. During that time, Lucas's jokes gradually, subtly, began to cross a line. One night, at a wine bar, as the atmosphere mellowed, Lucas sighed deeply and said, "Honestly, I envy you. Isabella and I have been sleeping in separate rooms for 3 years now. 3 years. Like roommates. I guess this is what a rut feels like." He filled his glass with wine, looking utterly defeated. I tried to offer some comfort. Then, with an unsettling directness, Lucas stared intently at my wife, Amelia, and said, "But Amelia, how do you manage to be so vibrant? Honestly, I'm jealous. With a wife like you, how could anyone ever get bored? You're exactly my type, to be honest." The first one to burst out laughing was Isabella. She roared with laughter and slapped Lucas hard on the back. "Oh, this man. He's really showing his true colors when he's drunk. Go ahead, if you like her so much, live with her. I'm free." Isabella's hearty laughter made us all join in, but a shiver of unease traced its way down my spine. My wife Amelia playfully nudged Isabella's arm, saying, "Oh, sister, you're too much," and Lucas chuckled. "Hey, I'm just joking, kidding." I, too, laughed loudly and slapped Lucas on the back. "You rogue, drink more gracefully." But at the end of that forced laughter, I saw Lucas and my wife, Amelia, share a fleeting glance. It lasted only a second, a flicker of something unreadable, but it was enough. I told myself it was just a passing look, a trick of the alcohol. It had to be. I didn't want to shatter this perfect, joyful atmosphere, this fragile glass castle, with my own hands. But that night, as I lay in bed, I tossed and turned with an inexplicable unease. Perhaps my subconscious already knew that tiny cracks were beginning to form in my perfect world. Then came a summer day. During a meal, Lucas showed us pictures on his phone and made a suggestion. "Why don't we all go for an overnight golf trip this weekend? There's a new resort in California that's amazing, isn't it? We could use a change of scenery." Amelia and Isabella clapped their hands like schoolgirls, genuinely excited. I watched their joyful expressions, pushing down the premonition of dread in my heart. I cheerfully agreed, imagining a happy weekend. Little did I know that this one-night, 2-day trip would be the prelude to a tragedy that would drag all four of us into an inescapable swamp. In the car heading to California, I was exhilarated by the sense of liberation I hadn't felt in a long time. Amelia and Isabella in the back seat exclaimed like high school girls on a road trip, "Oh, look at the ocean's color. It's like a jewel." And you're right, Isabella. So glad we came. I glimpsed them in the rearview mirror, and Lucas and I exchanged smiles. Those ladies are really having fun today. We laughed aloud at Lucas's remark. The small stone that had bothered me for months in my heart seemed to vanish into the blue waves of California. When we arrived at the picturesque resort, with California's emerald ocean stretching beyond panoramic windows, the four of us cheered like children. The golf course, where we immediately changed and headed out, was nothing short of heaven. My drive, swung with full force in the refreshing ocean breeze, recorded the best distance of my life. Amelia's putting that day was uncanny. When a long putt of over 10 meters went straight into the hole, the four of us hugged and cheered as if we had won a championship. Lucas gave my wife a thumbs up, saying, "Amelia, you could go pro later." And Amelia hooked her arm through mine, saying, "It's all thanks to my husband." At that moment, I felt like I had everything in the world. It was a true family-like scene, forged by 20 years of time. After the round, we enjoyed playing in the villa's infinity pool until sunset. As dusk fell, we held a barbecue party on the terrace. The delicious, sizzling sound of thick steaks and fresh seafood on the grill, the refreshing beer, and the laughter of loved ones. Lucas poured wine into our glasses, to our 20 years of friendship and to the beauty of the lovely ladies here. We clinked our glasses together at Lucas's cheerful toast. Red tinged by the sunset, Amelia and Isabella taking pictures of each other was like a painting. I watched my wife with a contented smile, puffing out my chest at Lucas's compliment. I proudly raised my wine glass, thinking, my wife is such an amazing woman. After dinner, we moved into the villa's living room with bottles of wine and whiskey. 90s pop songs flowed from the Bluetooth speaker, and we sang along and danced. The atmosphere grew increasingly lively. Lucas and I began to mix whiskey with wine, reminiscing about old memories. In this rare moment of abandon, I too seemed to have let go of my inhibitions. Amelia and Isabella, also finding endless amusement, clinked their wine glasses and laughed like girls. After a few more shots, the living room lights seemed to spin. My stomach churned. I stumbled to my feet. Hey, I need to use the restroom. My head spinning. I'll just lie down in the room for a bit. You guys keep drinking. Lucas teased. Oh, my friend's gone down. Amelia chided. Well, who told you to mix drinks like that? Yet looked at me with concern. Reassured by her concern, I walked down the hall to the room. When I lay on the bed, the world seemed to spin. Beyond the room, Lucas, Amelia, and Isabella's laughter echoed loudly. I'll just clear my head and go back out, I thought, trying to close my eyes for just a moment, a very brief moment. That's how the most perfect day of my life was drawing to a close. Little did I imagine that that night would become the gaping maw of hell, ready to swallow my entire life. How long had I slept? I woke up disoriented from a terrible thirst, drank some water from the fridge, and then slowly drifted back to sleep. My head was heavy with the mixture of wine and whiskey, but I felt like I was walking on clouds. Just as I was about to slip into a light slumber again, through my exhaustion and intoxication, I felt a subtle movement as the spot beside me sank. The familiar warmth of my wife seeped into my back, bringing a sense of relief even in my sleep. I didn't bother to open my eyes. I wanted to embrace the sweet temptation that came with the languid intoxication. Her fingers, feather-light at first, traced a path from my shoulder down my spine, igniting a trail of goosebumps. Her hands began to gently caress me, and with her touch, my sleep-addled body slowly responded, a deep-seated craving stirring to life. Her daring seduction snapped the last thread of my reason. It was an exhilarating yet strange moment, transcending 20 years of familiarity. It felt like a pure, unadulterated pull towards each other, beyond duty or comfort. More than a mere physical experience, I was enveloped in an ecstasy that felt like going back in time to our initial passion. In the darkness, we became deeply entwined. She held me tight, as if to articulate suppressed emotions. I surrendered everything to that burning desire. All my senses awakened, and the youthful emotions I had forgotten raged like a storm. Her body was firm and responsive, her skin impossibly soft, and an intoxicating thrill ran through me wherever my hands touched her. Her hot breath, laced with the sweet, musky scent of desire, ghosted against my earlobe, sending shivers through me and paralyzing my reason. I could only feel her movements, her breath, and her scent, which was both unfamiliar and familiar. Her fingernails lightly dug into my back, and that stimulation became a thrilling stream of pleasure coursing through my entire body. Our movements grew more and more intense, a frantic, desperate rhythm. The powerful friction at our hips consumed me like a burning inferno, each thrust a deeper plunge into a delicious oblivion. A wave of pleasure, so suffocating it stole my breath, washed over my entire body. I instinctively groaned, a raw, animal sound, and thrust deeper. As her body trembled beneath me, tightening around me with exquisite pressure, the world paused, and all sensations converged into a single, blinding point. In that climactic moment, where hot lava seemed to engulf my entire being, I let go of everything. My body arched, my vision turned white in supreme ecstasy, and I felt as if I were finally liberated from all reality, utterly lost in her. My senses exploded with delight. In that moment, a powerful urge to see the face of the woman who had given me this gift overwhelmed me. I squinted my eyes open. But then, I witnessed a shocking sight and froze. The woman gasping for breath before me was not my wife. It was Isabella, my friend Lucas's wife. I opened my eyes wide in shock, but she kept hers closed, burning with her final passion. Her disheveled dark brown hair was plastered to her face with sweat, and her flushed cheeks and moist, parted lips fully revealed the traces of the intense night that had just ended. Beads of sweat had risen on her chest, trickling down her collarbone, and her heaving bosom added a strange, potent allure, confusing me even further. Her eyes, still closed, held a flicker of deep satisfaction. Her confession, uttered in that intimate, post-climax haze, was a poison and a balm, pulling me deeper even as it appalled me. I liked you so much from the first moment I saw you. I've always wanted to hold you like this, she whispered, her voice a silken thread of desire and undeniable truth. Everything about that moment screamed what had just transpired. And finally, with a long sigh, she leaned her body against mine. I felt her body tremble faintly. My mind went blank, utterly incapable of processing this absurd situation. A cold dread settled in my stomach. Just then, she lifted her face from my chest, looked at me, and smiled faintly. Her eyes were still moist, as if dreaming, and that gaze, sharp and knowing, seemed to penetrate deep into my soul. Isabella left the room quietly a moment later with a satisfied smile, and I sat on the bed like a ghost. In my mind, the memories of that night replayed like a terrible nightmare. Isabella's uncharacteristic expression from earlier and her strange smile that seemed to ask, "Do you know now?" I stared at the ceiling patterns with wide open eyes, waiting for dawn to break, desperate for the nightmare to end. As morning dawned, I quietly opened the bedroom door and walked into the living room. On the sofa, my wife, Amelia, was curled up under a blanket, sleeping uncomfortably. Lucas and Isabella's villa door was tightly closed, and there was no sign of anyone inside. I couldn't bear that bizarre sight, that suffocating silence. Without waking the three of them, I slipped out of the villa alone and headed to the resort restaurant. Outside the window, the morning sun broke through, and the sea sparkled. Families at other tables laughed happily. But to me, everything looked like black and white, a muted, distant world. As I sat there blankly, I heard familiar laughter from the restaurant entrance. I turned my head to see Lucas, Isabella, and my wife Amelia, who had just woken up, walking in together, laughing as if nothing had happened. All three looked refreshed and relaxed, as if they had just returned from a spa. In that moment, I felt like a ghost. My wife and my friend's wife were there, but it was as if I didn't exist in their world, as if I were merely an observer to their chilling game. I realized that what had happened last night was their secret party, one that only I wasn't supposed to know about. The air seemed to thicken with unspoken lies. I couldn't bring myself to meet their eyes. On the way back to New York from the resort, we stopped briefly at a highway rest area. I grabbed a can of coffee to soothe my troubled stomach when Lucas approached me. He put his arm around my shoulder and whispered, like a devil, so no one else could hear, "Hey, how was last night?" Lucas looked at me with a chilling smile, a disturbing satisfaction in it, as if he knew everything. His voice, a devil's whisper, oozed a disturbing satisfaction. "My wife's good, isn't she?" The words were a brand, searing my skin, the ultimate degradation. He then recounted the whole story of that night's escapade, laughing as if it were a heroic tale. How the jokes they had made while heavily drunk turned serious, and how when Lucas showed interest in Amelia, she reciprocated. How Amelia had then given Isabella permission to sleep with my husband, and Isabella had agreed to everything under that condition. My blood ran cold as I listened to his casual retelling of our shared betrayal. In the car on the way home, amidst the suffocating silence, I finally spoke to my wife. "I want to hear what happened last night directly from you." My wife simply stared out the window, her profile unreadable, and replied, "Well, I was too drunk. I don't really remember." "Why, did something happen?" Her perfect feigning of ignorance, delivered with a detached calm, was a final blow. It wasn't just a lie. It was an erasure of reality, a calculated dismissal that left me gasping for breath in the silent confines of the car. I gave up on everything. In this twisted play, no one was telling the truth. Only I had to bear the crushing weight of this terrible reality. My heart felt as if it were freezing solid, and a wave of self-loathing so profound it turned my stomach left me trembling. The world I knew had crumbled in an instant, leaving me adrift in a sea of lies. A hellish week passed. Lucas called, suggesting we have dinner together as couples. I couldn't refuse and headed to the agreed-upon restaurant. The atmosphere in the private dining room was awkward, thick with unspoken tension. It was Lucas who spoke first, his voice disturbingly casual. "We've already crossed the line. Let's redefine this relationship. We're not breaking up our families. On the contrary, through this relationship, all four of us can become happier." He claimed this arrangement would give us new vitality, a renewed spark, but to me, it sounded like the overture to ruin. He had already planned everything, every sinister detail. The sheer audacity of his proposal, delivered with such casual confidence, left me momentarily breathless, grappling with the grotesque reality he was presenting. Instead of staying in the US, we'll go on a golf trip abroad every 6 months. There, we can give each other rest and happiness, and find our own kind of pleasure. At that moment, my mind went blank. What kind of twisted nonsense is this? I thought, yet at the same time, I couldn't deny the strange thirst and anxiety that had been subtly creeping up on me for a long time. A dangerous thought whispered in my ear. Perhaps, deep down, I also wanted to escape. I might have briefly entertained the dangerous fantasy of reawakening senses that had become dull within the framework of stability. I was so bewildered that I couldn't speak. But then Amelia spoke first, her voice surprisingly firm. "I think that's a good idea." Her short answer left me momentarily dazed. I couldn't shake the feeling that her simple agreement concealed a complex web of emotions. Was it just a practical decision, or did it signify something deeper, a similar longing within her? Isabella quietly nodded, her eyes meeting mine for a fleeting second, a silent acknowledgement of the new unspoken pact. All eyes turned to me. I should have resisted with every fiber of my being, fought against this monstrous proposal. But in my mind, I saw the innocent faces of my children, the 20 years I had spent building my social standing, and my own weak, terrified self, utterly unable to bear the public devastation of it all. After a long, agonizing silence, I finally spoke. It was a sentence that sold my soul. "Let's do it as a vacation, once every 6 months, and only within the bounds of protecting our two families and our children." Just like that, our dangerous, unspoken contract was formed. And 2 years have passed. I am now at a resort in Florida. This is our fourth trip since that fateful day 2 years ago. In the daytime, I play golf with Amelia as my partner, maintaining the facade of our perfect life. But at night, I pair with Isabella, and we slip into the shadows of our forbidden world. Isabella is asleep beside me now, her body a familiar warmth against mine. When she woke, she embraced me again, her soft curves pressing against my chest, and that contact ignited every nerve. "I want to see you again when we go back," she whispered languidly, her voice a balm and a poison, and my heart began to pound fiercely once more. After 3 days of golf, we returned to our routine as if nothing had happened, seamlessly slipping back into our separate lives, only to crave the next illicit encounter. A week later, I received a text from Isabella saying she missed me. And now, as I drive to our meeting place, I gaze at the distant sky. Every moment is a precarious tightrope walk, suspended between the gnawing anxiety of exposure and the consuming fire of a desire I no longer control. The shattered pieces of trust could never be reassembled, and our once perfect world scattered like ashes. Old wine offered deep flavor, but it never quenched the profound thirst of my soul. I still don't know where this dangerous tightrope walk will end. Will we continue to dance forever in this illusion of happiness? Or will this forbidden game ultimately lead us all to utter ruin? Sometimes, I wonder if the ruin has already happened, not in a grand explosion, but quietly within me.